Hey guys, and we're back. Wow, look at all these books. I look so well read, so smart.
You have not read any of these.
Hey, that was uncalled for. Today, we're going to be discussing another novel. If you like aliens, genius children, and random acts of violence,
Ender's Game
is the book for you. Ender's Game is the coming-of-age sci-fi novel that was published back in 1985. Though it does have many memorable moments, I guess, from everyone's childhood, like training in the military, fighting battles in Zero G, and having to hold off an entire alien invasion. Yeah, I guess not everybody's childhood. Essentially, this is a military novel about how young Ender uses his genius and his abilities to save the world from the evil alien species, the Buggers. Well, not really evil, more so misunderstood, but hey, we humans tend to really like waging war on due to misunderstandings and creating an other without even trying to relate or empathize with them, and I'm getting off track. So basically, we have Ender Wiggin. He's the third, born due to the request of the government, and the youngest child in the Wiggins family. He has two older siblings, Valentine and Peter. Both are exceptionally genius, just like him, but Peter Wiggin was too cruel to Ender and constantly bullied him, and Valentine was too nice for the Battlestar program. Ender, luckily, had the ideal combination of supreme intelligence and intellect and killer instincts, something we all wish we had. And so he was recruited to train at battle school to protect people against the Buggers eventually, at the tender age of 6. Although Ender starts out like all the others as a launchy, he's soon promoted to the rank of the soldier. So while Ender is off to battle school and command school, we see his siblings, Valentine and Peter, basically using the net, so the internet, to become huge political icons and convincing the masses that they should be the leaders. Which is pretty crazy, as the only thing I've ever really used the internet for is watching TV. Over the course of the story, Ender becomes more and more influential and eventually becomes the commander of an entire army at the age of 9. 9. When I was 9, I was eating sand out of the playground. Hey, that's normal. Don't judge me.
Spoiler alert coming. Stop now.
During the final battle, Ender ends up destroying the Bugger's entire home world. Ender then discovers that that last final simulation he was fighting was actually real, and actually he destroyed the Buggers and committed mass genocide. Ender then accompanies a group of people on an exploration of the Bugger planet and discovers the last Bugger pupa. He and Valentine then go off to explore the colonies and potentially aid the alien civilization into becoming a civilization again. So basically, Ender feels crazy guilty for what he had just did, even though it wasn't his fault, as the alien species, the Buggers, they were really just the first war that occurred was really just because of miscommunications. The buggers spoke to one another telepathically, whereas the humans and didn't understand that the humans were an actual intelligent species, thus trying to attack. Hey, I guess that's kind of what happens in high school. You know what I'm talking about, when you send a text to your friend and then you get into a fight because they misunderstood what happened, and this all could have been solved if you guys just learned how to communicate. Yeah, you definitely know what I'm talking about. So some context for this fine novel. It was written by Orson Scott Card. He was born in 1951. He had a Mormon upbringing and now has a master's degree in literature from the University of Utah. In many of his works, including Ender's Game, he was inspired by Isaac Asimov for the Foundation trilogy, in which led him to write sci-fi. He was also fascinated by military strategy, and this can clearly be seen through his work, Ender's Game. Since Card thought of the idea of the book during his adolescence, it makes sense that most influential characters in the book are children. This is shown through the fact that he believes children have a more deeper and intense thought process and are more emotional than they are usually shown in literature and media today. Thus, he was able to relate his target audience to this novel. The focus on children in his book is intentional because Orson wanted the readers to see the world from the eyes of kids. This was one of the main goals for the author. The book was written a few years after World War II, around the 1970s, when the Cold War was occurring. This use of historical context was seen in his book near the end, when the world powers and alliances became more prominent. The book overall shows a significant understanding of the great books of the Western world. The great books of the Western world are a collection of books that shows the basis of Western culture and gives a full understanding of Western ideology and literature. This understanding of the great books was seen in Ender's Game because the author shows a high level of sympathy and understanding of philosophy and political ideologies from many years ago. Although the novel allows us to empathize with the buggers and realize that they were just another intelligent species, and that we as a society should have tried to understand and connect with them, in the real world, it's totally different. Orson Scott Card is a huge homophobe. He has, on many accounts, he's said horrible things about gay marriage and things like that, such as legalizing gay marriage is not about making it possible for gay people to become couples. It's giving the left power to force anti-religious values on our children. Buddy, I was rooting for you. Luckily, in his work Ender's Game, there is no sign of his homophobic rhetoric. Moving on, there are many prevalent themes in this novel, notable ones being games, youth, and manipulation. So games. In the book, games are a major theme in the story, as see the title? Ender's Game. Not only because of that, but as Ender wins games through his time playing, he doesn't realize the real meaning of them. And what effect they are having on the people in their society. The meaning of the word game is shifted not only in Ender's eyes, but in the eyes of the other characters. Games are no longer a voluntary experience in this world. They're no longer fun or experimental. Instead, games become more and more necessary as the story unfolds and reveals the truth behind the meaning of them. Ender has to play these games, and near the end of the book, although Ender won and defeated the buggers, it's very hard for him to distinguish between games and the real world after spending so much time in a game that it basically becomes his reality. Dad pointed out that the war wouldn't go away just because you hid bugger mask and you wouldn't let your kids play the make-believe laser guns. Better to play the war games and have a better chance of surviving when the buggers came again. So basically, games were a huge aspect in the novel as they were used to defeat the entire bugger species. Another theme is youth. The theme of youth is very significant in the book, given the context of creation, since the author was young when he thought of it, and how I talked before about how he thought that children were super complex and intelligent thinkers. So this theme exemplifies the fact that children, their thoughts and emotions, abilities go underrated and ignored. This book gives the faith of humanity into the hands of the children, who are treated with the same seriousness as adults, which may not always be a good thing. Ender Wiggin is 10 times smarter and stronger than I am. What I'm doing to him will bring out his genius. If I had to go through it myself, it would crush me. So this is something General Graf says about Ender, and it just goes to show that the young people in this book are so important, and that training them will obviously bring them to victory, but it will also make the children lose their childhoods. Last but not least, we have the theme of manipulation and ruthlessness. Manipulation in Ender's Game is seen through the eyes of the adults. So now, the last but not least, we have manipulation and ruthlessness. Manipulation in Ender's Game is seen through children and adults in the book. Manipulation is an easy tactic used by many to gain control and allow people to have more power. And ruthlessness is seen as one of the more destructive themes in the book. But even though it might seem that the ruthlessness is exhibited, in some cases it was for the right reasons. Card shows the fine line and complications with morality and judgment from the eyes of the characters and the audience. I won't lie now, said Graf. My job isn't to be friends. My job is to produce the best soldiers in the world, in the whole history of the world. We need a Napoleon, an Alexander. So here you have it, a quick summary and analysis of one of the craziest books I've ever read, Ender's Game. And I hope you read it too. Thanks for watching.